Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez. I'm coming at you today with podcast number 257 with Bleeves Crypto on DEVVE, TA, politics. Everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. I first must apologize because I was on a space yesterday. As soon as we started, or as soon as the thing dropped, I was like, okay, let's go over this. And towards the end of the video, I was just going over crypto Twitter, and then definitely want to get into this. You're somewhat of a bearish sentiment on DEVVE, and then towards the end of it had said like the bull run might be over in Q4, which anything is possible. I had a knee-jerk reaction and I was like, oh god, I feel like that's so retarded. So that is my bad. You're not here. I talked bad about you while you were not here. Need to apologize for that. Anyway, I want to get you on the I guess initial thoughts on the roadmap. You said that the major announcements aren't going to be until Q4, like the partner and the rollout. But do you think that really diminishes all the announcements they have scheduled for Q3?
Well, so the question would be, what are the announcements? And let me share my screen. And there we go.
Putting that up. All right, yeah.
So the announcements would be a test center. Test center is not going to move the needle. Public shard launch. Now, a public shard launch has a potential to be a real needle mover. The problem with that is it's going to take a little time for people to build on it and to get themselves acclimated and used to. So in the event that there's a pump, the pump would make, this is my opinion, by the way. I'm not basing this on anything but what I think might happen. And in that regard, I would say that that's probably not higher than $2 to $3. Like that's not a reason. The one thing to remember here is when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about this from a speculative pump basis, not a fulfillment of whatever their ultimate goal is. Whatever their ultimate goal is, and I've said this publicly and I say it again, I don't think that they really care too much about the token as it stands right now, because the token is not where they make money. They make money by creating a product that they earn revenue off of. That token is not it. That token is a reward to everybody for their investment, and it's a reward to the people that work for them when it absolutely blows up and goes bonkers. Like that's what that is, and that's what that represents. That's exit liquidity, if you will, for all of their effort, all of their work. That changes their lives. But for the moment, it doesn't mean that much. What means a lot is really just what means a lot is going to be that announcement. And I'll get to that in a moment. But the public shard launch, maybe $2 or $3. The white paper update, nobody cares about a white paper update. It's nice to see from a technical standpoint, and the people who are already invested, they're going to love that, because those are the kind of things that you're looking for to validate your theses about what, whatever it is that you think. This just validates that. Nobody's buying because there's a white paper. Then the DEVVE and the Dev Exchange updated websites. Again, the best thing that you can hope for in that regard is that the people who are already invested throw a few more bucks in and pump the price. So, you have very little in Q3 that's going to absolutely move things. And then you have the institutional partner integration strategy and architecture design. System architecture finalized with key institutional partner. But we're not going to know about that. That doesn't mean anything to us. That's not something that's going to move the chart. That's not something that we're even going to know about. That's just something that we're privy to on that back end. So Q3 for me, $3 maybe. And that's going to be with some really good positivity, moving us forward. And by the way, $3 should be enough for almost anybody through Q3. But then we get to October, November, December. And
before we get there, I was wondering, this Q3, is this on the assumption that that Bitcoin and ETH might top out around end of Q3, early Q4? As you said, the bull run might be over by Q4.
Well, let me show you, and you'll see what I see. So this is liquidity flow. This is the money index, right? This is all the money coming into markets. Now, it doesn't line up perfectly, but it lines up pretty good. My offset right now, just for full disclosure, is where am I at here? 80 days. I'm at 80 days offset. What this is this shows you whether money is flowing into risk markets or out of risk market. I mean, it doesn't directly. This is just how much money is being printed worldwide. Now, we do know that the Trump administration asked for and got approved another $5 trillion that they can start printing, which is going to take this ever so much higher. But they may not need to print. That's only on a need to do it basis. This administration is trying to save a little money. So let's recognize that. And then let's zoom a little bit. And we move this around. And what we see is when you see this big move up here and you see the liquidity right here came running into the market, we saw it run up. Then you see this double top right here, which we got a double top right here. Then you saw this dump that happened, which we saw right here. Then you saw this fake out right here. We got that fake out right there. Then we got the further dump back down. Then we got this gigantic move right there. Then right here. Now we got this big move right here. So the market is doing exactly what the M2 money supply is saying. So there's no reason to think that it's going to be any different. Now, because we know that's the case, let's now take our thesis and let's move this so that it matches up. And we don't have it exactly matching, but we're getting kind of close to it right there. So we're going to match the low with the high. It's not going to be perfect, by the way, but it is a good indicator. So we're going to take the top there, the bottom there, and now we're going to look at where we are. And when you look at it right there, you can see that we're matching up perfectly with this position that we're in right here. Okay, this is happening right now, and we're seeing that play out exactly as you would expect. So what that tells us is that with 99% accuracy, this money flow right here will let us know what's going on with the broader market. Okay, so now we take this and then we realize this right here is what's about to happen. It's about to get so much bigger, so much broader, so much higher. Now, the problem is in this thesis, we don't know what's happening at the end. What's happened right now is around the end of September or October at this point is where we're going to get that blow off top right there. Now, that means that we've got this getting ready to happen. That's going to take us to about maybe 5 trillion market cap, which means that there's a lot of money getting ready to come into risk assets. However, we now know that this might be the end. This might be the blow off. So September and October, and maybe if it pushes a little bit further out, November, that becomes our top in the entire market. And that means, and by the way, the other thing to this is, remember, Ethereum is currently outperforming Bitcoin. So again, by thesis, the Bitcoin market, the blow off top, all of the things that we're looking for that next big leg up, that's actually happening right now, at least in part. So we are getting to that altcoin season. The problem is we don't have enough capital coming through Bitcoin to make those Bitcoin holders rich enough, and not the institutions, but the people who are traders that take their money out of Bitcoin and flow it down into Ethereum and all these other ones. Okay, we've seen that happen already. And now we're just waiting for that next push. The next push drives Bitcoin up to 150, 170. Then a bunch of money comes down and we have a blow off top, because now there's an extra, I want to say when you look at it, there's going to be an extra, 60, 70 billion dollars coming into what matters in our neck of the woods. And that is this total 3 right here, which is at $1 trillion with a high previously of only 1.16 trillion. So this is preparing to go so much higher. This is our top over here. We basically broke through that in November and December of this past year when we were getting that rally. But because of the dilution in the number of cryptos, we didn't experience it completely. We didn't get that euphoric blow off with meme coins and stuff like that. We stopped because we're not there yet. So the next move will be just gigantic. Like the next move, when we weigh this out and we start to look at this and we start to put, what is the market telling us right here, and we start to do this, then what you can look at right there is we are gonna go out of our fucking minds on the total 3. Total 3 is the entire market minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. So that's the way that we're running right now. Bitcoin dominance collapsed the other day, didn't come down to where we need it to come. So we know that this is not the rally that we're looking for, not yet. The last time we got that, we went right back up. We got this one right here. Looks like we're heading right back up. We're bouncing off of the 200 right now. This is a great sign. We got rejected off the 200. So we might see an altcoin season. We might see this come down, but it wouldn't make sense at this point for it to come down because there's not enough capital in the market for that explosive move because Bitcoin's still sitting at 116. Again, you got to go up to 100 and in my estimation, 140,000 is where we're going to see the complete altcoin season explosion. So
that's something I want to go over as well, because you said, hey, we'll have a blow off top over here. You charted it, you put it where that yellow line reaches the top. But because right now the interest rates on the 30-year treasury bill is like 5%, which is insane. You have interest rates that are already compressing without the Fed cutting rates. Mm-hmm. And when the Fed cuts rates, and they'll have to eventually, then you're going to have trillions of more dollars just rip into the market. And is all that going to go into crypto? No, but a lot of it's going to go into stocks. Stocks getting all-time highs all the time in general. You have Trump saying that he wants to go in and have give people rebate checks. So I think that once the Fed lowers interest rates, you're going to have another blow off top. That's going to be bigger than this one. And again, this is just, it's possible. It's crypto, anything can happen. But what do you make of the first blow off top in what you think might be Q4 versus another blow off top if we get rates down from 5% to 3.5% or lower, and you have these trillions of dollars ripping into the market?
So that's a great question. And we're operating on what we see on money in this regard. So the issue would be what's going to happen. And this is where we don't know. This is where we're making a guess. It is my estimation. I'll actually, spoiler alert. Let me see if I got it up here. There we go. That is my prediction for the cycle top. That blue line right there. We're not even close to the cycle top. Okay. Spoiler alert. That's June of 2026.
All right. Copy.
We are going to go so much higher. Here's the problem. The problem is that thesis is based upon this money flow continuing. And by the way, it doesn't matter how much retail money, like it doesn't matter what Trump does at this point until we start printing money. We have to remember where risk money comes from. It comes from that money printer being on. If we turn incredibly fiscally conservative, that's not going to happen with near the excitement that we would normally have. So what we are looking at is we want to see money flow coming in. There's all kinds of different things that could happen, but here's the point to it all. All of that's already happening. We're seeing institution bring in Bitcoin. We're seeing mass adoption everywhere. We're seeing the guardrails being put in place. We're seeing the partnerships of each one of these different cryptos finally finding some sort of foothold in traditional finance. We're seeing all that happen, but we're not seeing it translate into massive price action across the board. Now, here's where it gets interesting. What we're talking about is everything happens in layers, right? So let's go look at we're going to turn off money supply, because money supply is the one that we don't know yet. And we hope that we're going to get it, but let's just take that off the table for right now and take an estimate of what's going to happen next. Well, let's look at where we are. We're near or at, and by the way, we're settling at an all-time high. The last previous all-time high was 3 trillion. We're at 3.77 trillion today with a high of almost 4 trillion market cap just a few short days ago. So when you look at the entirety of crypto, we are doing better than we've ever done before. End of story. Bitcoin has been carrying it along. Now let's remove Bitcoin from the mix, and suddenly we're not doing nearly as well as what we were doing before. We got our high again at that last blow off area, but now let's zoom out here, and guess what? We never minted a new all-time high. And what that shows is an alarming amount of weakness in altcoins. Part of that is because Ethereum is cooked into this number right here. When we take Ethereum out, guess what? It gets a little bit better. So we know that Ethereum has been the drag on it. And the question is, why is it a drag? And the answer to that is very simple. The only use case, the only function, the only purpose for Ethereum is staking. What's not available in the ETFs? Staking. So you can't earn rewards. You can't improve your lot, if you will, with Ethereum the way that it's designed right now, because the SEC did not allow it. They will allow it very soon. Then we're going to see this fundamentally change. I think this all kind of lines up with, we'll get the announcement here, August, maybe September. And then the ETH staking, by the way, 19B4 filings have all taken place, with the last one being, I think, BlackRock on Tuesday of this week has filed their 19B4 to add staking into Ethereum. So it's going to happen. We know that it's going to happen. We also know that by October, I think it's 15th, we're going to see XRP, we're going to see Solana, we're going to see a lot of different stake ETFs pop up. So we know that the market's got some upside. But remember, in January, when the Bitcoin was approved, we went down 37% immediately after that. Same thing happened with Ethereum. Before it started to run again, and it did start running again, we did see some tremendous dips. So that kind of corresponds to where we are.
But I feel like the tariffs probably had a lot to do with that, because that war just absolutely demolished the markets. That just annihilated them.
I think the speculation of the tariffs did that. But we're at an all-time high in the Dow Jones. We're at an all-time high in S&P. We're at an all-time high on NASDAQ. We're at an all-time high on Bitcoin and crypto. The only things, when we zoom out, that we're missing is, and we go down here to total DeFi. Look at total DeFi. DeFi has been destroyed. Okay, this is where for us, this is where, as a degen, as somebody who's looking for the market to pump your bags, guess what? They've not pumped your bags, not to any level that you've been to before. Remember, the high in DeFi was $200 billion in 2021. The best we could do over here, 156. So we only did 75% of the previous top of this market. That is crazy. Like, we are not performing in DeFi. And look where we are right now. We're at under 125 billion on this last surge, 116. So we need that altcoin season to come. We haven't seen it yet, and we're getting closer, and it's going to happen at that blow off top. So I guess to summarize everything right now, DeFi is a powder keg ready to explode. And that takes us back to DEVVE. If in fact this money flow is right, and there's no reason to think that the money flow is not right, the money flow knows more than we do. The money flow says that we are in for quite the little ride, but it only puts us up to, I want to say that, look at what's happening. Now, remember, we looked at this on the chart before, and we tried to match these, we tried to match these big moves up with how the chart was performing, and we see that it matches up pretty well right here until we get to right now. Look at how far we are off. And what does that mean? So to me, it means capital is flowing into Bitcoin. Capital is continuing into Bitcoin because it's got another leg up. And the money that comes from the profits on Bitcoin is what pumps this chart right here. This is the chart that we all need to see pump. Now, taking that into consideration, let's go back and say, well, what happens if it pumps? Well, DEVVE, remember, this is our pump right here in November and December of 2024. So we take this and we apply it to DEVVE. And what happened in December of 2024 or November of 2024? Right there, baby. That's when we go to $1.80. So ultimately, DEVVE is ready for another big move. Ultimately, it will get a big move, but you should also be concerned right now. And this is, I think I even say this in my video, like if you look at the flow of money and you look at the flow of capital, then guess what's been happening here? Nothing when it comes to DEVVE. Look at that flow of money going into this market. We are not capturing any of it. So that's where my alarming that's where my feeling comes in here. Like something is very, very wrong. We're not finding new wallets. The end. Okay. That's the summary right there, is we're not finding new wallets. Without new wallets, we're not going to go anywhere. So, and that's marketing. And then we get the roadmap, and the roadmap tells us, well, so let me ask you a question. And this is a very important question. If you were in a meme coin, okay, not DEVVE, we know the quality of DEVVE, or at least we think we know the quality of DEVVE. We have every reason to believe in this project. But if this were a meme coin, okay, and you had and you had somebody who really going back, remember, February of 2024, or what was it? I showed it yesterday on I don't want to get into the Twitter again, but in 2024, May of 2024, we're in the home stretch. We're in the final leg. The final leg of what? We're now 14 months after that. That's a long final leg. Okay. So 14 months later, what are we told? Well, 14 months later, we're told, hey, if you just wait another 6 months, guess what's going to happen? All that good stuff that we've been promising you for this long period of time is now going to happen. So if that was a meme coin, you'd be like, no, it's not.
Yeah, if it was, I mean, there are different types of meme coins. There's meme coins where it's just full degen. Nobody knows who the leader is. Nobody knows who's behind it. They're not doxed. The liquidity isn't locked, and it's very, very risky. If this would be a type of meme coin, it's like, okay, well, the liquidity is locked, which is good. So they can't rug. Contracts are announced, and we know who's behind it. That's great. And they've said that I would question the ability to execute. Visions are great. You need it, but you also need someone to execute that vision. And if they're not executing and their wallets are staying the same, it's like, okay, well, at least there's a community here. At least there's something here. Now, how long can you go before that community dumps? And you see that human psychology that they just want to sell what's not performing or sell what's down in order to go into buy into, like, I see it even with people that should know better, that are saying, like, and not just with DEVVE, just that are in generally good projects that are making revenues, that it's just not their time yet, the narrative's not there, and they want to go into stuff that's already done this big move. And generally that's the wrong thing. Like, every now and then, yeah, you can get into something and it keeps pumping and you do like another 2 or 4x, but generally that's not the rule. The rule is, like, when you do that, a lot of times you buy into the pump, you're somebody else's exit liquidity, and you wind up locking in those losses on one. So if there were a meme coin of that caliber, I would question the ability to execute. However, I will say that because I've invested in tech in quite a while, especially like Tesla being the big one, where we think that our Cybertruck is getting here in like 2021, and we don't get it till like 2024, right. And that's like one of the smartest men on the planet. Like, so I understand tech delays. Maybe that's a fault of mine that I'm too understanding and I'm a little too, because yeah, at some point the bull run will end. At some point you'll have you could miss it, and that's possible. But that's kind of my general view of that.
And here's what I say: in the event that money flow doesn't keep going up and we are missing the bull run, I'm going to change my thesis by a few dollars. Okay, that's what I think ultimately people should understand. I'm saying that, and by the way, I went to Grok and asked the question of Grok: if the partnership is real, if the partnership is true, what is the valuation of DEVVE for all of that? You know what their answer was? Between $25 and $70.
And do you think that even if we miss the bull run, it maybe goes down just like 10 or 20% from
exactly that? Here's what the ultimate understanding that I think everybody should have is that if this is the payoff, okay, if the announced institutional exchange partner is who we think it is, and the platform is launching with very little success, if those are the things that are happening right there, then $50, period. Now, if we miss the run, let's say it's $40, okay, that would be a realistic, for me, an estimate of where it would kind of settle. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how this would all play out. No matter what, we're going to get a generational type pump. Now, the other thing is, if I hook you guys on $50 and you say, well, $50, that's like 100x from where we are. Well, that's legitimate, because you have to understand the micro cap that we're at, the value of the partner, and the potential that represents. Now, that puts it at a $5 billion market cap. Okay, $50. That's where you have to take a step back and say, is this guy out of his mind? Well, $50 per token, which should be coined by then, which, by the way, you can see that with DEVVE integration with DEVVE-X S2. That's what that means. DEVVE-X S2 transactions utilize DEVVE further driving usage and volume. So that means that's where you actually have it become a coin and move over into the DEVVE blockchain. So that's happening in Q4 as well. But you bring all this out, and now you have, this valuation of $50, let's call it, again, at 5 billion market cap. And now, what is it about DEVVE that's special? And then you have to kind of say, well, what would it compare to in this market right now? Now, the public shard is going to be very important, and we need as many public shards as we possibly can. But private shards make it a little bit less adoptable. So it's going to be based on the name and reputation of that company. And who else is partnered with big companies? Well, SWE is partnered with Franklin Templeton. SWE's market cap is 13 billion. So is 5 billion me undershooting the landing? I think that it is. See, that's where we get into the technicals of, what could potentially happen. So what I would say is more likely Chainlink. Chainlink is an RWA. It fits in with that narrative. And when you look at the overall market cap for that on speculation, remember, this is not mass adoption that we're talking about on this chart right here. This is speculation, and that rampant speculation during a bull run put it at a $20.7 billion valuation. Now,
that was the last bull run, right?
On the last bull run. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we don't want to miss that opportunity, but if we were to, let's just say it would be Cardano. And if we went and I know we're fanboy posting here, like we're in Marvel Comics or something, but if DEVVE were to reach the by the way, did you go see Superman?
I've been, unfortunately, speaking of comic books, I'm writing a very, very large comic book universe for VeVe, and I've been doing nothing but writing and in meetings from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed. So I missed Jurassic Park. I missed Superman. I will not miss Fantastic Four. I will go watch it this weekend.
It's the best Superman movie ever made.
Okay. All right.
That really is.
Because I liked Man of Steel. So if it's better than that.
And by the way, I love Man of Steel. But when you comparison, Man of Steel is dog shit by comparison to this movie. Again, okay, I am somebody who loved Henry Cavill. I think it was a discredit to Henry Cavill, the things that he went through for this whole process. I think Zack Snyder's vision kind of sucked ultimately, but I still love Man of Steel, and I thought it was a good one. But this is the Superman that you've been waiting for. Now, the Superman on the chart that you've been waiting for is me revealing this. Remember, Cardano is the closest market cap that we have to 20 billion. If it were to go to Cardano's level, $327 per DEVVE coin.
We should also mention that this is as the crypto market stands right now, not in the one or two. So that one blow off top that you're talking about in September, October is one thing. And I guess we'll get to that June blow off top later. But yeah, I don't expect Cardano to stay at 28 billion. I fully expect them to go. We're just
using Cardano as a price right now to give you guys an idea of the value of what you are holding right now. If you have 20,000 DEVVE, and what I say is, to me, it's very, very simple. If you have 20,000 DEVVE, I even put it on my chart over here, 20,000 DEVVE will make you a millionaire, in my opinion, because I do think that it's going to $50 per coin. But how many millions could you have just by continuing to hold? Well, then we get into pie in the sky. What happens if it goes to Ethereum's level, 440 billion?
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, we're talking about $4,000 per coin. So I'm gonna my strategy, by the way, is to sell about 80 to 100,000 at $50.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I'm gonna hold on to between 3,000 and 5,000 as a moon bag forever. That's going to be my, when it really starts to take over. And there's no reason to think at this point that it's not going to eventually take over. There's no reason to think that. And I know that that's moon boy, and I know that's fanboy again. But again, I believe that this is a paradigm shift in the way crypto is transacted ultimately. So when it takes off, when it does that, then we're talking about something in the neighborhood of, it's difficult to say 440 billion market cap, obviously. But guess what? It was difficult to say that about Ethereum when Ethereum launched too.
Yeah.
So
I guess one of the things that I would want to go over is the fact that at a 1,000x would be that $500.
Yeah.
And that's so. What if right now? And again, 100x I think is very possible. I mean that getting to that $50 range, but is that contingent on them, like whoever the partnership is? We know it's some type of exchange, could be London Exchange, Beijing, or New York Stock Exchange, whatever. But the partner is one thing. We're assuming that they're going to be making money from it, and obviously you'll get that recognition, and they're going to have a joint marketing campaign, which is great. But how much of that price is because they might see a lot of revenues from it versus how much from other stuff? Because what if like they have this really cool partner, but what if they sign this deal where the partnership doesn't make them a lot of money? They get the name recognition, but it's, they're really just trying to work for the trading fees and the partner that they have. I'm just curious if the partnership is cool, but it's essentially not meaningless, but if they're not making much money off of it, how much does that affect your prices?
Not in the least, because crypto is a speculative investment, and what we're not taking into account, which I suppose we should, is if this partner is in fact who we think it is, who else wants to be associated with that? That's where the question becomes. What do we have at this point? And what does the world need right now? What the world needs right now is RWAs that are available, that can be tokenized, that have instantaneous settlement, where you are in control of your own privacy and security, and you don't have people interfering, and you are not allowing other people to hold your asset on their platform. That is the crux of the problem, and that DEVVE is the answer to. The DevX blockchain fixes all of that. So then what is the value, not of the partnership, but who comes along? Like, let's just say, for example, that Tesla was the name of the company that the partnership is with, right? Not only is Tesla fully integrated, by the way, it's not Tesla, but if Tesla is fully integrated, everybody that does business with Tesla, that wants to do business with Tesla, would have to be fully integrated. Ta-da! Now you've got value. So let's go back here and let's say, and I guess we should say it's as an open secret here, okay? Nobody has confirmation of anything, but it is my opinion, because I did a video in November of 23 about this before I even knew about DEVVE, but my guess is that it's NASDAQ, okay? So that everybody understands. Now, in the event that it is NASDAQ as a partner, again, I think that the value of the announcement alone within a month makes it a $5 billion asset. But that's not where the meat and potatoes is. If we go to NASDAQ and we look at everything that's listed on the NASDAQ stock market, if you want to trade tech stock, okay, if you want to trade tech stock, where do you have to be if it's tokenized? DEVVE, Tesla, NVIDIA, Invesco, QQQ. You know what that is? Isn't that gold? Isn't QQQ the gold one? Here's AMD, all the computers, all of the digital, all of the technology that you want will be tokenized to be tradable. And where do the institutions want to trade? They want to trade on NASDAQ. Where is NASDAQ? If that's the partner, it's where DEVVE is. That's where the value comes in. The amount of money that they make from NASDAQ, I don't think is going to be consequential. I think that that's just going to be, that's going to meet payroll, basically. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. That meets your payroll. And you don't have a ton of people working on it. So it pays expenses for whatever it does. It's everything that you can build along with this. And let's go back over here, because guess what? There's a public shard launching. Well, what happens if Pump Fund says, you know what? We want some of that RWA cheddar. And part of the public shard is a meme coin paradise with instantaneous settlement, with zero time, with up to 8 million transactions per second, better than Solana, better than Avalanche, better than every other platform out there. That's what they have. Now, will that be the main focus? No, it will not, because it's still massive institution. But there's where your value comes in. So now where do we go from 5 billion? Now we start talking about, well, what if instead of Cardano, what if it was Solana? What if we did DEVVE and it is at the same level as just Solana? God, I hate this thing sometimes.
I see. Struggling over there.
$1,123. Do you see how crazy this becomes? Again, it's not the partnership. The partnership is exit liquidity for early investors. That's it. The building of this ecosystem to turn it into a thriving RWA paradise, if you will, for institutional grade investors is where the value comes in. And that value right there is monumental. So again, if you have 1,000 DEVVE and it goes to Solana's market cap, you made another $1 million, which is why I'm going to hold on to between 3 and 5 million. I mean, 3 or 5,000 of it after I've already exited, because, at some point, I think that DEVVE becomes that next big thing in crypto.
I am liking I'm picking up what you're putting down. I like it. I'm just, doesn't seem, is DEVVE your biggest bag?
No, but it's my biggest altcoin bag. My biggest bag is Bitcoin. Gotcha.
It is my third biggest bag. First is Definity, second is Omi, but I've been buying pretty heavy into DEVVE. Like I've been spending more on DEVVE than anything else because waiting on it. Obviously if it does, and here's the thing, like, unfortunately, like I do like some of my other bags as well. So once we go to like $5, like, and 10x, I'll probably take some off just because, one, I deserve to take some profits.
Yeah.
I know that's going to sound so silly when we're talking about 1,000 X's, like, oh, you took some at 10x. It's just last time I just round tripped a lot of stuff, and I just have PTSD from, like, I just don't want to do that again. In the event that Bitcoin, because if that's your biggest bag, let's say it goes to, do you know who Josh Mandel is?
No. I mean, I probably do, but
There's two Josh Mandels. One was the former state treasurer of Ohio, but that's not who I'm talking about. This one guy, Josh Mandel, 2 L's at the end of his name. He had 2 insanely correct price predictions for Bitcoin. One was like November of last year. One was like April of this year. And he, like, to the day, he got it right. People are accusing him of being a time traveler. He says something crazy that Bitcoin can go to 444,000.
Well, he's not crazy. He's doing what I'm doing. He's
been right twice. Like to the day, he's been right twice.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go to this double blow off top here that you have in June of next year.
So let me show you how easy that actually is. I mean, like, literally all you have to do is take Bitcoin. And if you know this, by the way, then it changes things fundamentally for you. I mean, that really is the case. Again, you put the movement on the money supply and you get that right, and you set that up so that it is absolutely 100% right, then I can tell you that on August 1st, Bitcoin will be at 125,000.
Okay.
It's right here. It's on the chart. Like it's on the chart. It's telling me the future. Things could change, and the place where you massage it is, like, for example, let's kind of zoom it around here, and you can see as we move it around, how it basically meshes up perfectly, but it's not 100% exact. It's just a flow of money. Finding out where it's going to go is about, what is the president of the United States doing? What is the president of China doing? It's about knowing some of those macroeconomic factors and being able to derive your thesis based on a lot of moving parts. So again, August 1st, I'm going to say in the next 6 to 7 days, we're going to get that surge right there, and that we're going to end up at 125,000 Bitcoin.
Good.
But
and then
But he's, I mean, and he's doing the same thing. That's what he's doing. He's looking at money supply. He's looking at macroeconomic factors, and he's developing a thesis based on that. And if you follow this money flow the same way, then it matches up almost 100%. So yeah, I can see a lot of people getting super fucking smart or seeming like they're super smart right now, that they're predicting the exact movement. They're predicting the exact market that, you know, if you know, if you're in the know, then you understand where everything is headed. You know what I mean? That's what does Tony Edwards say? You know where the puck is headed.
True.
And it's headed way up.
Yeah. And so I know it's going to be contingent on that money supply, but how many blow off tops do we get? Do we get one at 170, then we retrace, then 250, then we retrace all the way up to 444?
Good question. This would tell me 150 right now, so I don't think that we're done. However, I don't know. Again, we're doing it dollar for dollar at this point. We're just moving it around so that it matches up specifically. And it tells me that we're coming in at around anywhere between 140, 145, 155,000 right there on Bitcoin. Now, the question that everybody should be asking right now is what is going on right here? That is the money supply over the last 5 days. We saw a massive dump in money supply a couple days ago, and now we're seeing it spike back up. Well, what happens? Here's the thing. What happens if what Donald Trump is doing is right? I don't know if you're a Trump supporter. I don't know if anybody is a Trump. I think most people in crypto are pretty Trump savvy and you know, trust in Donald Trump. I'm not a fan of his, but you know, I mean, it's crypto. So I think he's the best person for crypto. Now, I think he understands that as well. And then the question becomes, what is he going to do to keep this shit pumping? And if he does, how much longer will it pump? And I mean, you know, you zoom out here and I mean, look at all the capital that flooded in over the last couple of years. And by the way, let's go over here and look. You can see, like, when you do this and you move this around, like, even though money was flowing in, like it was delayed a little bit. Like you know, when you look at it, you know, it doesn't line up perfectly. As we get older and become a more mature market, crypto matches up a lot better with global money flow, because now, you know, global money flow is about getting your money into the stock exchange. Really, I mean, that's your risk asset, basically. Your treasuries, your comic books. Look at comic book prices right now. They're going to the moon. Like right now is your time to sell your comic books, or at least in the next 90 days, probably the time to sell any of your comic books that have a great amount of value. So market moves in cycles. So the question is this cycle going to continue? But if we zoom out, and again, we just kind of look at this money flow over time, guess what? Always finds a way to go higher. So any dip that we get, it's not going to last. We're going to go so much higher. So, you know, I would say that, you know, I'm pretty convinced here that this is going to end up going a lot higher, because as you can see right here, the golden ratio of the last bull run is 173,000 right here. And we're not even touching that when we start to, again, when we start to zoom and put this shit into, you know, where it fits, we're only going to about 150 right there. So it is my estimation, and I don't have proof, but it's my estimation that this is going to continue and continue and continue into June of next year. And then we might see a correction from there. Also, I think it's important to recognize the reason that we had such a parabolic run. And I know I might even be on deaf ears right here, but this right here, I want you to remember, you know, we had that start right now. It's feeling pretty good. This is in 2021. We were super happy. We were feeling it. But what happens at the beginning of every year in the United States? And the answer to that, the thing that sets everybody off,
the budgets,
tax time. It's your tax time. It's when you get retail individuals throwing their money in because it's a speculative asset and they have a few extra bucks. Well, if Donald Trump does anything to help prices, and by the way, to this point, I know that he says it all the time, but it's not true. Like, we're not in a better situation than we were 6 months ago. If you're buying groceries and shit like that, not yet, but we will be. Like, that's the important part. Even if we're not today, we will be very, very soon. Yeah. Gas prices near me yesterday, $3.49. I had a buddy who told me they were $2.28 where he is. I asked where he was. It was in Colorado. I asked what gas station. It was Buc-ee's. Do you remember about 5 days ago, Donald Trump said gas is $1.98 in 5 different states right now?
I did not.
Okay,
did not know that.
So he said that gas was $1.98 in 5 different states. Okay, now, is that true? Well, on a technicality, it's true. And do you know why? Because the Trump administration reached out to Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's agreed to make their gas prices $1.98 for a few days. Now, it was $1.98 one day. It was $2.08 the next day. It was $2.18 the next day. It was $2.28 the next day. It was $2.38 the day after that. If you go to Gas Buddy and you start looking this shit up, you'd be surprised what you'd find. So what we did was we manipulated the market, which, by the way, Buc-ee's been sued multiple times over manipulating gas prices in the market. So that's what he did. He went to the place where he knew they would manipulate it for him. They're Trump supporters. So they made it look that way. Gas everywhere else is still as high as it was before. We need that stuff to come down. Bill Gardner brings up something. Eggs were $9 and now are $3.
Yeah,
gas
I'm
is
in
$2.99 here in Cleveland. So
yeah,
gas
Ohio's
is still
been crazy.
Yeah, gas is still $3 in Cleveland. So that's not $1.98. That's not true. But if you go to a Buc-ee's in Ohio, it was $1.98 a couple days ago. Also, eggs were $9 and are $3 now. But guess what? If we just go back instead of 6 months, 1 year, guess what? Eggs were $1.99. So eggs were still cheaper. Eggs were still cheaper under Joe Biden than they were under Donald Trump so far. Doesn't mean that Donald Trump is not doing a better job, by the way. But these things take time to fix themselves. Eggs near me are back to $2.99. As a matter of fact, I can confirm in Chicago, eggs are $2.99 again. I haven't seen a sale taking them down back into that $99 or $1.99 range yet. But guess what? As the stock of chickens get healthier, and they will get, and it will happen, you know, that bird flu is going to go away, then everything's going to go back to normal. It just hasn't yet. So again, what you said, like, what happens when good things start to happen? Well, what if gas comes down and we're actually only paying an average of $2.30 or $2.40? What happens? The cost of transportation comes down. What if the birds get healthy and the eggs are healthy? Then the eggs go down to $1.99. And look at how many things we cook with eggs and how much we need gas. Those two things, and really, it's not really eggs. Eggs is just kind of a symbol, if you will. But it is important. But gas prices are the most important thing. What happens when gas prices come down? Donald Trump looks like his economy goes on steroids, actually for real, and not just for makeup because you want to pwn the libs or whatever bullshit reason that you give. Like, for a legitimate reason. And guys, we are on our way to everything that Donald Trump has been saying actually working. Like, we're on our way to it. He just likes to get in front of it and say that it's happening when it's not.
I think that with midterms next year and Trump just having this massive deal with Japan, like $550 billion coming to the US, I assume most of that is going to be front run. Like, hey, do all this with oil and gas, because by the Q1, Q2 of next year, when everyone's rearing up for midterms, he wants the economy booming.
So I mean, he just told you by August 1st, most of the trade deals are going to be done. He's been lying to you since day one about the trade deals. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we're not going to have the trade deals. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have some deals and that we're going to have better trade. I mean, here's the thing. Despite the fact I am not a Trump guy, but the tariffs are a good idea. Like, and anybody who doesn't recognize that, something wrong with you, man. Not something wrong with me. This is a good idea. Fight these people. Make these people. And by the way, this is not about your prices and stuff like that. This is about our ability to effectively trade with the rest of the world. When we send stuff to, what is it? The jeans, I think, Levi jeans. Levi jeans, incredibly popular in China. Cost to manufacture, cost to do, what is it, $25, $35 for a pair of Levi jeans. They're not expensive. They're they cost somewhere near $100 US in China because they are so heavily tariffed and manipulated by those markets. That's one of our big exports, though, So again, there are a lot of places that have been manipulating. So I am prepared to suck it up for tariffs in the hopes that we will have better trade across the world. I mean, it's pretty simple to me.
Yeah. Agreed. I hope that we can, and not that I don't care, but I just, whatever's good for Americans, just in general,
right.
I just hope what happens, regardless of who's in power.
Yep.
If you had a politician, whether it be favorite for Senate, or who do you want to see go into the spotlight, even just to get their ideas out there, even if they don't really like, as far as Democrats, before Tulsi Gabbard moved, like, I support her as Democrat, and then Andrew Yang I liked. But what about you? Who do you like? Who do you want to see up there?
There's nobody in the Democratic Party that I am a fan of at this point. I mean, to be fair, I would say AOC because she's super hot, but that's the only reason. Like, you know what I mean? Like, here's what I would say. And AOC is one of those people that kind of strikes people as like, there's absolutely no way. But you know what? She got in. She's worked with Republicans. She's worked with Democrats. She works with anybody and everybody who will do what she wants. And what does she want? She doesn't care what happens in the country. She cares what happens in her region. That's all she cares about. And to that extent, she's one of those people who is going to have a huge future in politics if she sticks with it. That's really what it comes down to. Like Bill Gardner says, save the Constitution. We save the Constitution until we decide that it's an inconvenient portion. So I am probably as constitutionally based as it gets. Like, I think that this country runs by the Constitution and should run by the Constitution. Okay. It has been bastardized. It's been co-opted by government. Sometimes Democrats, sometimes Republican, but always a uniparty that is continuing to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And Bill says, start a revolution. In 2016, that revolution was Donald Trump, but it turns out everybody that he appointed was part of that uniparty. So now he's in there and he does not have the uniparty behind him. Okay, that's the something. By the way, that doesn't mean for everything. I'm not saying that he's a purist or anything like that, but he doesn't have the uniparty running things and telling him what he should be doing. And he's going to break some things, by the way. Pete Hegseth, probably a horrible choice for, I don't even know what his fucking job is, but Secretary of Defense, probably not the greatest person for that. But I haven't seen anything bad. I mean, I know, I watched him drinking on the job a couple times, and I thought, oh my God, this guy cannot be doing that. But you know what? I don't give a shit. Get drunk as you want, as long as we're safe and as long as we're protected. Tulsi Gabbard and that DNI thing, the revelations of Barack Obama and all that kind of stuff right there. Guess what?
Pieces of that too.
Nobody's going to get arrested, or if they do, it's going to be for posturing and stuff like that. And then the U.S. government, if they arrest Barack Obama for whatever they're making up in their minds as the real reason. And by the way, the reason that I bring this up is because all of this is performative. What Donald Trump tells you is not true, but what Democrats tell you is not true either. So we're not talking about the truths here. We're talking about our opinions of each one of these little things. So what you thought in 2016 belies the fact that you didn't have the knowledge of 2025. So to say that all of these things, you have to believe it's all true. Look, there was enough evidence. And by the way, one of the important things that a lot of people like to say is that the Mueller report didn't show any collusion, right? But does anybody know why it didn't show that there was no collusion? And the answer to that is because the Trump administration was too stupid to use the Russians for help. Now, let me say that one more time. They were too by their own admission, by the way. And if you don't believe me, it's 187 pages. It's not that hard to read. You can go read the Mueller report. The reason that they didn't do it, and they tried to do it, the reason that they didn't do it was because they wrote some names down wrong. They wrote phone numbers down wrong. They were stupid. And by the way, that's not Trump's people. That's the uniparty. That was the uniparty. You know what I mean? And Average Cat just said something. As a member of the military, Pete Hegseth is bringing back standards back in the military. Like, I don't think he's qualified for the job, but guess what? I don't think anybody's qualified for the job. So, I don't think that he's one of those, like he's traditional. I want to say traditional values. Okay. He's bringing that back into the military. So again, I don't care if he's an alcoholic. I'm not a fan, but it's, at least this guy is the choice of a guy who wants to put a monkey wrench into our system. You know what I mean? So, I'm not, again, I don't think it was a wise decision. I think it was I think it's going to end up potentially disastrous. And if you think that it was okay for him to be in Signal with some reporter revealing when they could actually do shit, then you're not thinking clearly. And you're making excuses for something that you would want Hillary Clinton put to death for. So don't be a hypocrite. Be honest about it. If you didn't like that, then you would have wanted somebody's head to roll. You would be using the words. By the way, I got my list of words that MAGA people use. Treason. Constantly use the word treason. It's treasonous what he did. But it's okay for some reason because he's on your party. So look, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to call the balls and strikes the way I see them. You're not always going to like them because I'm going to be honest. And a lot of dishonesty is required if you have a political party.
I think the double-edged sword with the Signal thing was, I don't think they knew he was in there. So, but how do you, what type of situational awareness or cybersecurity awareness do you have where you don't know who's in a group chat? So I don't think it was actually ill intent. It was just exceedingly careless.
Right.
And maybe that person, multiple people that are in that, maybe shouldn't be in charge of certain things if they can't tell who's in a group chat. Like, how easy is it to put somebody in, make the phone number something else by spoofing it to make them think that it's somebody else when it's really like a spy? That's very, very dangerous.
If you just consider the people that he put in place, and you consider that, he's just picking people like from Fox News or from public spaces to fill the administration roles, if that makes you furious, because the people who are qualified don't do a good job at it either. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't think they're qualified, but again, it doesn't mean that I would do the same thing. Hey, listen, the director of national intelligence, if I'm elected president, is going to be Randy Chavez. So what now, motherfucker? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to put people that are unqualified in somebody's opinion too. So don't we have like chefs and cooks and shit like that died under Obama? We have weird stuff that happens all the time. Like, there's plenty of different stuff to argue and fight about and all that blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, Trump is the president. You should support the president, even if you don't like him, even if you think he's a clown. You are doing a disservice to your country by not being supportive, in my opinion. And you know what? If you disagree with me, it's your right. It's your opinion. You can do that. And, whatever.
The thing that kind of gets me sometimes is, I do this with, and this is just what I see, last year or earlier this year, former President Joe Biden had, either he had COVID or like something, he had a health issue. And I just said, I hope, I hope President Biden gets better. And there was a couple like laugh reacts, and there was a couple of, but a lot of support. Like, yeah, me too. But there's a couple people that just don't like him. But when Trump had COVID, like 2020 or whatever, and I posted like, I hope President Trump gets better, like half of the people were just like, I hope he dies. And I was like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, and this is why. I feel like this is why people really don't like the far left that much, and it alienates people that are middle left, because it's like, you try to get some sensible people. They're like, hey, I like these ideas, but here's who the loudest mouths are like kind of representing and what they're kind of doing. It's like cheering for the death of the president. Like, oh. I don't think I would do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you got something. All right. How do I get that back on?
Joe Biden isn't mentally capable of making decisions at this point. Joe Biden is dead.
Yeah, I imagine the right does this just as the
exactly. Exactly. He's on his deathbed here. They're going down. They do the same thing. They do the same thing.
Get community noted.
Yeah, and they get community noted because they lie. And by the way, we should understand what we're doing here. What we're doing is basically the craziest gotcha is what everybody reacts to. And, you know, if you post something like that, then you're getting engagement. Also, don't forget that these were the same people who were saying that Joe Biden is already dead. Here's Henry Apple saying that Joe Biden is dead and he can't say a sentence. And again, if you go down here and you continue to do this, you're going to see, and by the way, these are the top comments. If I went to this one right here and you find the words Biden and I hope he dies, you'll find it nonstop because it's not your followers or it's because, you know, or it's not because somebody that you know is doing it doesn't mean that it's not being done. It just means your followers are not doing it. Same thing. If I say something nice or bad about one person or another, you know, the people that follow me are going to have an opinion. Most people are pro-Trump that follow me when it comes down to it, when we talk about crypto, because it's crypto. And even though, to be fair, so that everybody understands, crypto is actually a liberal Democrat proposition, because it's based on libertarian principles of small government and staying the fuck out of my business and being an absolute purist and following the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That is what the Democrats and the libertarians are and were at one point until sometime around 1993, 1994, when the Democratic Party decided, hey, in order to keep up with the Republicans, we need to start taking big money and big corporate interest, because previous to that, they really did not. That money went into the Republican Party. Then you saw a group of angry Republicans about 15 years later, form the Tea Party. The Tea Party was built upon the lie that the reason that everything crashed around us is because we elected a what is it? What is that word that Hulk Hogan likes to use to describe black people? Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that was the we got that guy in office, and you know he's a, what do you call it? A Kenyan Muslim. That's our trigger word there. But guess what? They pretended that he was the reason that it happened. It happened in 2007 under George Bush because Republicans allowed those kind of things to happen. It's very simple. Like, you really look and fact check all this stuff up, but if somebody lies to you enough, you end up believing it. You know. So
I was very much a libertarian. Yeah, definitely liked. I started off as just conspiracy theorists, listening to Alex Jones, like, oh, they're all bad, which, you know, fair point. Alex
Jones has been right a lot, though. I mean,
yeah,
just because he doesn't do it the right way, and just because he's, by the way, he is an example of everything that is wrong and right in media. Okay, he's wrong because he just makes shit up on the fly because it's gotcha, you know, it's gotcha journalism. He is the king of gotcha journalism. They're making the freaking frogs gay. But well. That's the most stupid thing you can possibly say, but guess what? It wasn't wrong.
It's hard, yeah, which is
it wasn't wrong. 30 years ago, he was talking about the butt sex orgies out in, you know, some kind of hill in California where all these people go and they fuck pheasants and whatever it is that they do. The Bilderbergs or something like that, that, you know, those kind of crazy things. Well, it turns out that's true too. Those are real things. Now, is it a whole bunch of just devious, crazy nonsense? Yeah. Is it all just giant sex parties? I mean, maybe there's a small pocket of it. I mean, we know, you know, ain't no party like a Diddy party, right? So, you know, there's plenty of different things out there that are true enough that we kind of mash up and turn into something bigger because it gets more attention. And Alex Jones was very successful in doing that. But again, he's everything that's right because he does that. Bohemian Grove. There we go. Planet Vampire. Bohemian Grove. That was the one. But we know that it's real. We know that it happens. We don't know the extent of it or anything like that, but we do know. And guess what? A lot of that is thanks to Alex Jones.
A lot of wild times.
Yep.
Now I'm concerned where he's talking about like interdimensional vampires. And like it's like there's two different things that are likely not possible, don't exist. But then, we said that about all the other stuff. Like this, you're gone off the rails again, Alex Jones. And maybe in 20 years, we get visitors from another dimension and they're vampires. I don't know.
So the one thing to remember is that if you remember going back to when the I think really cool and I think I like it very much. The Q people, the QAnon weirdos, the fruitcakes, the ding dongs, the
4chaners, yeah.
They just made up new conspiracies every single day, and all it takes is for one of them to be close to true, to validate a lot of what they think. So, if you just keep randomly shooting the ball, eventually it's going to go in. So you're going to find one that's right. And that validates everything that you've said. If you're a dum-dum, if you're not a critical thinker, then you fall into that trap. And by the way, I don't mean when I say critical, I don't mean you should get your news from the media. I don't mean that you should get your news. I'm not telling you where you should get your news or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you fall for crazy shit, imagine that you because a lot of people think that 9/11 was a hoax. Why? Because a D student in thermodynamics said steel can't melt at that level. It can't happen at that level. Without considering real thermodynamics and structural integrity or anything like that. Like I went to college. I didn't even go to science classes in college, by the way. But even I in high school knew that structural integrity is jeopardized by excessive heat exposure. Like that's like, are you ridiculous? And then there's the other conspiracies. I think on Timothy McVeigh was working for the CIA, and all just all kinds of crazy stuff. And by the way, don't forget that we just did a thing on we've been talking about the Jeffrey E. We've been talking about releasing the files. We've been talking about the need to have full disclosure. And we have Republicans shooting down Democrat proposals to release this to the public. And suddenly MAGA says, oh, yeah, we don't want that to come out. We don't want that to come out. Why? Because Donald Trump's on there 3 times. That's why. And by the way, does that mean that Donald Trump did anything? Nope. But it means that he's on the list because guess what? There's a lot of famous people that are going to be on the list with this guy. And guess what? In MAGA, well, they spend a lot of time and a lot of effort talking mad shit about Bill Gates. Why? Because Bill Gates is a Democrat. Not because he did anything wrong. Does it mean that he did anything wrong? I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But the point is, it doesn't matter what the truth is. It matters what your narrative is. And, don't fall for those narratives. I mean, I guess is the summary of it all.
I see a lot of Bill Gates hate, not necessarily from I do see hate from my friends on the right, but I see it more from my friends that are lower middle class or poor, and they just don't like him because he's a billionaire, which I understand. Like, I get it. I don't necessarily agree that just because.
But who represents the lower and middle class at this point? It used to be Democrats, but it is not. Democrats are the elitists in this. And for anybody who doesn't understand that, by the way, Republicans and Democrats have had a paradigm shift since 2009. Okay. Republicans, they still take money from corporate interest, but so do Democrats. Democrats just lie like they're the people's, and by the way, each one of those parties has people who are brokies. AOC doesn't have a ton of money. They are brokies, by the way. And there's a lot of them, in Congress. What's the problem is the principles by which you govern and guide yourself. And that falls in line right now more with Republicans than it does with Democrats. Democrats really, really like to give you a handout to help you. And that's nice to give somebody a helping hand. Okay. You know, that, but you need to handle your own business, handle your own shit, and you should have government and the ability to handle your own shit, not have somebody take care of it for you. And Democrats want to take care of everything for you. Elizabeth Warren doesn't like crypto because guess what? Because then they're not in control. They're not in control. That's really what it comes down to. So, you know, consider the principles by which you vote. And at this point, you should be voting Republican. I mean, you really should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know I mean? I like people that are pro crypto. I dislike people like Elizabeth Warren. And it does not a Democrat, or like if you're a Republican that doesn't like crypto, I don't really like you either. Probably because a lot of the beliefs or the reasons for being anti are exactly what you said. It just makes them feel like they lose control, which they do. I also feel like there is a bit of gatekeeping where this was years ago. I think it was like JP Morgan or whoever, like the banks would only offer crypto services to like their like elite people and not us poories. And it's like, Anyway, I know you do have to bounce. Anything you want to say before we talk off camera for a minute?
Yeah, guys, we are getting ready to go on a crazy run. All right. I am hoping that DEVVE reaches us in that moment, because that's where the difference between, like we talked about earlier, a $40 DEVVE and a 70 or 80 or a parabolic DEVVE, that's where that comes into play. If you are looking for an investment and you're looking for something where you can set your money and forget it, it is my belief that DEVVE is one of the premier projects in this industry right now, but it has not yet been realized. And that means there's a great opportunity for you to take a shot on it. And I do think that at some point it only takes between 3,000 and 5,000 DEVVE to make you ultimately a millionaire. The fact that you can scoop it up right now incredibly inexpensively is, I would say, a blessing to everybody. So stack your bag right now of DEVVE, because it's going to go parabolic. I do say that there are problems. Every business has problems. Me pointing out those problems doesn't make me a problem. Me pointing out those problems makes me just like you. And that is somebody who watches and sees and understands what's going on and then says something about it. I just have the platform to talk about it. So buy some DEVVE and get ready for a crazy run.
I can't wait. I'm hoping, and again, if we don't move until Q4, you have a whole other 2.5, 3 months before it does. You can stack there, you know, if you so choose. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming by.